I just came across this video where I thought, a very, very important question was asked. The question they ask is 10,000 religions. How do I choose one? And I was very excited. I thought, look, I might get some good material in this video. I was a bit sort of skeptical because the faces I saw on this video were, to my assessment, Wahhabi faces or Salafist faces. And I was wondering, maybe these guys eventually could provide some sort of insight into this important question that so many people would like to have answered. And I was a bit disappointed. Let me just show you how they answer or respond to this.
They're like, how do I find out which religion? There's like millions of religions. There's, the Dawkins typical response is 10,000 gods. It's like, oh yeah, you don't need to look into every single one. You can put them into groups and then think about which of these groups seems to be the most plausible. I just write polytheism off as absurd. It seems to all go back to this original mysterious source that's eternal, that has these particular qualities, which are qualities we describe a lot as Zawajal with. And you go as far as the Native Americans, they had the Great Spirit, this eternal thing that was the source of everything. They talked about it in very monotheistic ways. You go to China, you had a similar thing going on there, the Great Spirit that lived in the heavens. So you have these, reoccurring themes even in polytheistic religions, and it's like everything else is coming after this. All these extra quote unquote gods are coming after. Monotheism seems to just be the clearer option out of them, and so I just write polytheism off. Now, what that does is
I just write polytheism off. I don't think that's going to convince anyone, really. Imagine the Prophet in his time just came to the polytheists of his time, the pagans, and just said, I just write it off. You've got to produce arguments. This is not an argument just to say you write it off.
Really helps, because now you don't have as many religions you've got to go through. It's not 10,000 gods anymore. There's only the one. And, how many monotheistic religions are there? And if there is one God, and he is...
How many monotheistic religions are there? Probably hundreds. Because in your own Salafist opinion, there's about 73 Muslim sects, and they're all monotheistic. So there's 73 sects, and 72 of them will go to hell, and only one will go to heaven. So there's not so few as you think, And then there's a hadith in your belief system that says that the Christians and the Jews were all 70-something sects. So there's already 210. Religions for you to choose from. So I don't
trying to propagate a monotheistic religion. Then you've got a few really good options to pick from, and it's most likely, I would say, going to be.
I like the argument is
you've got about 200 good options, I guess. That's what you're saying.
As well, that the religion that has to be true, it has to be accessible. So if there is a monotheistic religion that is not accessible somewhere in I don't know what type of the world, it wouldn't even come in question. Like, how does God send the revelation for the people to follow it? And you can nowhere find it except in one.
Like Ibrahim, like Nabi Ibrahim was sent to a wilderness and with his wife and child. My brother, what? I don't think you've read the Qur'an. If truth is truth, it will be found in the remotest corner of the universe or on earth.
% of the world or something. Yeah. Islam, from wherever you are, is accessible.
I think this claim of
Islam is accessible. So this argument is accessibility is proof of truth. So religion is true if it is accessible. But then I think, Judaism and Christianity and atheism are all very accessible. So, that's not an argument.
Hey, there are so many religions, it's pointless to look into because there's just too many, right? I don't feel like a claim like that is a sincere one. And I've heard people say that.
So his argument is the claim isn't sincere. I think it's a very sincere claim. I think it's a good question. How do I choose? There's 10,000 religions. Me as an innocent searcher of truth, how do I find truth? I can't just believe that Islam is true because the Muslims say so. There's nothing obviously magnificent about Muslims. They might do a few things that I admire, but I need something more. And let's give them a chance to speak, and then I'll offer you my answer to the question.
Yes, they'd say, oh, your prophet does miracles. Well, there are 1,000 religions out there with prophets doing miracles. And this is coming, of course, from people who believe in miracles. And if you sincerely believed in miracles, then, I mean, you wouldn't be a naturalist. And I think you'd be kind of worried because you'd have a lot of people making claims about the reality of the world while being able to do all these supernatural things. I'd be curious. I'd leave my home and I'd start looking for these people and trying to get close to them and trying to figure out what the heck's going on.
If there was someone that was murdered, this is my favorite example for this. And
Okay, so now he's using some sort of analogy that finding a religion is like similar to finding some murderer or something.
you've got, Sherlock Holmes comes along, there's someone murdered, let's find out who did it. And they're bringing forth evidences and they're looking and they're narrowing it down. And then someone comes along and he's like, there's no point trying to find the murderer. So, what do you mean there's no point? Why would there be no point? There's only 7 billion people in the world. It could be any one of them. I guess technically it could be, but I'm not like, what do you expect every time there's a murder for us to go through absolutely every person and write them off completely? Or are we going to work a bit more productively and try to see if there's any evidence that leads?
Who comes into question?
Yeah, that's the first thing. You don't just.
You see, what they're arguing for is, I guess, it makes sense. You can't say that because there are so many religions that it doesn't make sense to search for the right one or for at least something that is closest to what is correct. So I don't think they're really answering the question. They're questioning the questioner. So they're questioning the person who asked the question. And I'd like them to really address the question, how do I choose?
Throw everything in the box and then say, now we've got to go through each and every single one of them independently.
You use filters.
Filters, the process of elimination.
Yeah, you use filters, but now that's what I want from you is, what are the filters? How do I filter out the junk from the good stuff?
It where you get all categories. If this person's been murdered in Berlin or in Ireland, I don't need to consider anyone.
Okay, spoiler alert. They're not actually going to give you the answer, I'm sorry. So you're going to have to just basically be in suspense until the end. So I might as well cut away from that. Look, let me answer the question in my view. How do we choose what is right? And choosing a worldview, choosing a choice of code in terms of your lifestyle, in terms of shaping your family, your home, your personal code that you abide by, is not too dissimilar from choosing any other technology. You see, if you choose any technology, whether it's a phone, whether it's a new diet, whether it is a job or a business type of venture, you need to examine it firstly on the basis of utility. You need to look at the potential choice that you're going to make. Well, in this case, a very, very extensive and far-reaching choice of lifestyle. You need to look at the potential benefit. And so utility is definitely one aspect of choosing a religion. And what do you want out of a lifestyle choice, out of a code? I think you would like things like happiness, you would like longevity, you would like a relative level of comfort, you would like a relative level of social fulfillment, you would like a relative level of purpose and goal. And these are all things that will add to your happiness and to your state of well-being as a human being. So I think utility is a very, very important consideration when you choose a code of lifestyle. But of course, these guys dare not bring in the idea of utility, because in their view, utility is not something that you should be considering in choosing a lifestyle choice. Because if you look back at the history of their history, the Salafist history, the traditionalist history, then it is one of oppression, of denial of rights. It's a very unfortunate history, and they can't make the guarantee that choosing the way of truth, which we believe is the way that is expressed and contained in the code, the Quranic code, the scriptural vision and worldview, we believe that that will deliver happiness. It will deliver comfort. It's done so for me. It's done so for many people I know. You know, the way that we shape our lives in terms of the teachings and the precepts of the Quran, it causes maximum utility for me. I mean, I can feel the benefit. But they can't do that because they have so many millions of hadiths and stuff and other books and salafis and false beliefs that really it messes up your life more than it gives you happiness and satisfaction in your life. Right, that's utility number one. Number two, it must be internally coherent and rational. The belief system, the worldview that I want must be internally, it must be coherent, and it must be rational. So it must not be fraught with inner contradictions. So, for example, it can't teach that I must not be harmed, right? That I must not be harmed or I will not be harmed. But then at the same time teaches that I must harm other people. So that is an internal contradiction. It means that two of us can't find satisfaction in the same belief system. And so it is not a solution for all people. So the presence of internal consistency and harmony is a very, very important requirement. So just simply saying that I can do anything, as with the hedonistic approach in Western society, it preaches that you must pursue maximum happiness. But often this comes at the cost of others. Like, for example, unfettered sex comes at the cost of the unborn child, who is, unfortunate as we can see, is often left, becomes an orphan in society. The future born child, the product of these unfettered sexual relationships. And then lastly, probably the most important filter or criterion on which I would like to base my decision of a life choice or religion is logical justification. So in other words, my choice of worldview of religion must be based on a sound and coherent logical argument. And that logical argument must be temporally and spatially consistent and coherent. In other words, it must take what we know of the past, what we know of the future, what we know of the world, and it must combine all of that into a rational understanding. And that, my friends, is the third important requirement and criterion in making a choice of religion. And that, if anyone independently and in an unbiased way uses these three criteria, I believe they will be unable to arrive at a wrong choice of religion.